glass. Beer's usually not part of the deal. Last night I almost did it, it's like, nope, I got a long day tomorrow, graduation, and I gotta come hang out with my friends here, so maybe tonight. Okay, foods and nutrients to increase, okay, fruits and veggies. Now this is especially the dark green and red and orange vegetables. Those seem to have the higher concentration of the things that we need. The brighter the color, usually the better off that you are, okay? Consume at least half of all grains as whole grains, okay? The easy one to remember with that is if you see the bread at the food market and you got a dark, very dark, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
A dark hull and the epidermis of it, usually think whole grains are involved. Not necessarily the case, but usually. Your rice is the same thing. Your darker rices usually aren't bleached, okay? Intake of fat-free or low-fat milk products, that's probably a good idea. In fact, in my old weightlifting and bodybuilding magazines that I love, a lot of the bodybuilders then, they were looking to find foods that were high in protein and low in price. Eggs and milk were one of the staples for the old bodybuilders. As I said in my day, eggs were a staple with me because of their cost. Now, if you're forced to eat a lot of eggs for protein purposes, if you're trying to make mustard with that, you can't hard boil them. And like with a dozen eggs, what I used to do, I'd hard boil the dozen and then throw the yolks of 6 of them away. Or give them to Fanny the cat. She'd love those, and she didn't die of a coronary, I don't think. Anyways, okay, and let's see, lean proteins. This is kind of interesting. A lot of different lean meats out there that claim to be lean, but when you look at them, they're not so much. And I'm not saying go out and kill Bambi, but if I was going to do a contest diet again, I'd probably start hunting again and get myself some venison. Nathan's saying, And pork is a frequently passed over protein source. Some of the pork that I see in the store, I think it has to be a misprint. How cheap it is. I don't know how the hog farmers can even earn any money doing that. But I've learned to like it. I used to have to hold my nose just like with venison, but and the fishes, a lot of them are good too. Okay? Try to consume more of the often insufficiently consumed nutrients. Potassium, fiber, calcium, and vitamin D. We spoke of vitamin D last night. Okay, healthy eating patterns. All of us looking at across the room, we probably have pretty healthy eating habits, or we have good genetics, or a bit of the both. But again, some of these things that are included in your text and also online, the DASH eating plan, that's the acronym for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. Again, I mentioned the Mediterranean diet earlier, which will have the dark wines inclusive of that, and a well-planned vegetarian diet. The reason why they say well-planned is you gotta look long and hard to get enough protein from a vegetarian diet to make it work for you. Now, I've never had a desire to do that, but I've had friends that were vegetarians, and they make some really good foods. And I said the natural question, where are you getting your proteins from? Usually the legumes and the beans. So, for instance, my spouse doesn't eat a lot of meat, so I like spaghetti and a nice hearty spaghetti sauce. Very often, I'll supplant any meat in the spaghetti sauce with kidney beans and black beans. I'll saute them with the onions and so forth and some garlic. I don't mind the taste of them anyway, but it kind of makes it more palatable if somebody wanted meat and they didn't have it. So there's a lot of ways to get around that. But again, well planned is significant here. Okay, the help, where they're going with this, helping Americans make healthier choices. One thing, the ACE, the part of our scope of practice, and we'll get into that when we get into the bigger book here in another day and a half. We're not to be, with our initial certification, we're not to be putting people on diets. I've had conversations with Tamla. There's a lot of gyms in town that are actually putting people on diets that aren't qualified to do it. It's only a matter of time before we get a lawsuit. They didn't ask the right questions, and there's some medical concern, and somebody's gonna have a serious problem. So, I put that right out front. We are not, I am now, because I got that additional certification, and even then, I'd be hesitant to say, you're gonna eat A, B, C, and D at such a time. Nathan?
My wife took a class at the Grand Traverse Athletic Club, and she had a trainer for a couple of days, and she came home. She's like, "Oh my gosh!" She's like, "I have to eat like 6 eggs and 2 cups of rice." I'm like,
For breakfast, or?
Yeah, for breakfast. I'm like, "No, you don't."
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's way
eat
too
an
many eggs.
egg, have a piece of toast and a fruit. You're good to go. She's like, I don't know what I'm
Well,
gonna do.
and
But, yeah.
what you're saying is true. Before I met Tamla in person, I spoke with her on the phone, and I was being polite and stating, I'm fully aware there's several gyms in town that are putting people on diets that don't have the wherewithal to be doing that. Now, that's their prerogative. But as ACE trainers, I have to tell you, we are not to be putting people on diets. But we can arm ourselves with information and make healthy suggestions. That's a big difference in stating, you're gonna eat A, B, C, D, and E. Now, I did go the step further, and I have the certification for them, lifestyle and weight management coach. Okay, it was logical. Our society's getting larger, that's something I could help with here, and if I go to Florida and so forth. A lot of retirees that are big and round, okay, they got what they call the gynoid shape. We'll talk about that too in a